Welcome to the masterclass on how to create an inquiry designer in Sage 300. Today we're going to go over how to utilize and why you should utilize Inquiry Designer. We're going to go over managing inquiries, and we're going to go over some more specific creating inquiries and defining jumps. So some more specific inquiry designs than we did in the foundational class. So just FYI, there is another class before this one on how to use Inquiry Designer, more foundational, like adding, deleting, changing inquiries, and changing the views. This class is going to be more how to work with columns and formulas and changing the actual inquiries itself. So you might want to watch the foundational class to kind of get an idea of how inquiries work. But I'll recap a little bit of that class within this one as well. We'll leave time at the end for questions as well. And then always, as always, reach out after the class on Bug or reach out to us at Bangert through the help@bangertinc.com if you need further assistance with these inquiries. Okay, so I'm going to dive in here to the Inquiry Designer. I'm going to first show you around a little bit and go over why you should have Inquiry Designer if you're in Sage 300. So in each module, you can see the various inquiries here in Inquiry Designer. So Inquiry Designer houses all of the modules you have and the inquiries in those modules. Okay, so for example, in accounts payable, you can see I have an accounts payable inquiry menu. And in accounts payable, my inquiry menu here is the exact duplicate. There's 5 here. You can kind of see over here, we've got 5 going on here, 5 menus. So the Inquiry Designer allows you to modify the inquiry that is in these modules. Okay, so for example, I go into this one here and it comes up with the standard columns, and it's got different views, but you have a standard inquiry that comes up the way it's built each time in the standard way. If you want to change it each time, if you don't have Inquiry Designer, each time you want to add a column to the inquiry, you come in here and add a column, let's say. Once I close out of this, if I don't have Inquiry Designer, whatever inquiry I was on there, my inquiry does not keep that address 1 box, the column I added. Okay, so in order to customize these, you need to have this module purchased. Okay, so why might you want to have this module? Well, if you don't like the way any of the inquiries are, and you always add a column, you always change something, you want to freeze this, or you want to add a condition to it, and you want it to stay each time you pull this up, it's going to get annoying if you have to do it every time. Okay, so also another reason to play with inquiries in Sage 300 is you can dump them to Excel. So the reports that are in here, if you are familiar with Report Designer and the reports in general, they don't dump out to Excel very nice, but the Inquiry Designer is built to dump out to Excel in a nice columnar format. Okay, so and In the foundational class, we cover the views, how to change them, how to change a default view when you pull up a specific inquiry. We cover adding, deleting inquiries and such. So watch that class if you want some base knowledge on how to get around here, or if this is a little over your head in this class, okay? So first thing in Inquiry Designer I want to show you is the management part of the inquiries. So I'm just going to pull up one of the modules here, and you can see the different buttons over here. So a lot of the time you're going to modify an existing inquiry that's pretty close, but you want to be able to add a column, a condition, or maybe you want to jump into a deeper record, which I'll explain jumps later. But if you want to add a brand new one from scratch, you can hit the new button here and type something, just making something up here. Let's actually go back to the different, we'll go into job cost. I'm going to click a new inquiry. I'm going to go to, I want to put this in the committed cost menu in job cost. So it's going to house it in the, get the menu up here. In this area. So it's going to add it to this list of inquiries under that menu, submenu under inquiry. Okay, because I picked that menu group. So now, say I want to start building this thing out a bit. So the first thing is you got to pick your start level. So the start level is kind of like the beginning of the inquiry before you start being able to drill down into it. So when I put committed cost up here, so I'm going to work with the commitment records. So I'm just going to click that one just as an example here, and I'm going to define levels. It's going to give us some base columns to start with each time you do this. Okay, so now I want to design this some more. I want to add some columns. Maybe I want the description. Maybe I want the vendor. And the job. And let's see if they've been released to accounting or not. And let's go one more. Let's do an amount. Okay, so we've got some fields here now on our inquiry, or some columns. So let's say now I want to, when I double click on this, I want to drill down into this commitment in some way. Okay, so that's called a jump. So in order to do that, you need to come up here to the Define Jumps button. It's blue, looks like a blue little circle, the gray dot on it. You're going to come you're going to come into this, so you can see the heading here. It's going to define the jumps for the JC commitment line or record that's showing here. So if I want to see, let's say maybe we want to see the batch related to this commitment. When I double click on it or press enter, then I can do that and double click into it. Now, let's say yes, we want to save changes to that. We'll give it a name because we haven't named our view yet. So we use the current files, and now you can see the batch details. Okay, so the jumps allow you to drill down into a more apparent record by what you tell it to do through the jumping mechanism here. So let's go into a different one, just as an example. More examples are better. I'm going to close this. And let's go into another one. Let's go into here. We're going to a profit summary. I'm just going to hit change so we can view this. And then define levels is what gets you into being able to adjust the inquiry. Okay. So as a tidbit on this one, you can have the inquiry ask you, do you want to use like the new file, the new invoice file? Do you want to use the master AP, master job cost file? You hit this during, so that when you pull up the inquiry, it will ask you, which table do you want to go off of? Okay, but I'm just going to use master and current. Okay, so this one is a profit summary. So if we look at job, this job here, and we drill down into it, if it has a jump in it, let's see if it does. I hit it and it brings me into this second level by double clicking or pressing enter. Okay, so you can press escape as well. So now I'm pressing escape to go back. Okay, so the define jumps button here. So I'm going to define jumps for the JC job. So it's the JC cost code table is what I'm saying I want to jump to. And JC cost code is the level that I want to go to. Okay, so I can then change it if I want to something. The system gives you what you can pick. So these are the tables in Sage. So these are not things that are set up by a user. These are not other inquiries. These are the tables inside Sage. Okay, so it gives me what's available. So I'm going to keep it at transaction and jump into here. Now, can we go down again? Let's see if we can maybe drill down again. We sure can. So I'm going to hit define jumps again, and you can see now I'm going down into category level. So we're going to double click on that. And you can see now I've got some category detail. Okay. Now we probably can't go down again, but we'll double click. Oh, we can. So we can go down one more and hit this. And you can see now I'm in the AP distribution area. Okay. So when escape is pressed, it's going to go in the order that I've drilled down. That's what this says. Okay. So if I hit escape and keep going backwards. I'll go back to where we were here. Now, I don't believe we can go down again. Well, we can go down again. This one's pretty deep. So double click here, hit define jumps again, and you can see where it's pulling from. Okay, amount paid does even go down into the actual detail with the bank account, which is housed on the AP distribution record. So as you want to build an inquiry, when you're on this screen, if you want to go down another level, you're going to hit define jumps. You're going to pick what you want to jump to, type of record you want to jump to over here. And you're going to want to pick one of these over here that shows up. So it'll give you what's available. The best advice I can give you is when you're building an inquiry, if you're building one from scratch, which is kind of rarely done, is to come in here and play with the jumps, because it's gonna give you different results depending on what you pick here. So you may or may not like this one. You may want to do more of a category jump. Okay. And you might want it to look more like that. So it's going to give you different options depending on what you pick in the jump button here. But the best advice I can give, again, just play around with the different views if you're trying to build it from scratch. Okay, so let's go back into, get out of here. Okay, so let's go back into Inquiry Manager. And let's look at accounts payable. Okay, so let's say you build an inquiry or you would adjust one, and you have another company inside of Sage. So you have a separate company up here you have to toggle to, and you want to copy an inquiry you built to that other company. Okay, so you can export it here and save it to your desktop, and then go to the other company and import it in. So it's a specific file format it will save it as. Just something like that. And then then you'll toggle to the next company and bring it in. So we'll pretend we're in the next company, and you're going to bring it in through the import button. Okay. So a lot of companies will have a master or parent company or something, or a main company, and they'll want to copy those inquiries instead of redoing them over and over again into the other related companies they use. Okay. So that is available here. You can also arrange them. So if you hit arrange and you want to put the invoice register underneath here, you can just use move up and move down. So if in my menu now in accounts payable, which I might have to get out of and get back in, you'll be able to see that it's moved around. So now it's down here when it was up here. Okay. Obviously there's a delete. You can delete an inquiry. You can copy it. If you want to play with one, you can copy it and name it something else. So you can play around with that. And then what we've been showing, or what I've been showing, is, just changing one. If I want to add, maybe I want this to have the addresses on there permanently, then I would add it there. When I close it, so this is the part that people don't know where to go. So it's pretty common to get stuck here. I've done this. Now what do I do? How do I save this inquiry? Well, you have to close it to save it. Okay, so I want to save it to vendor totals. And now when I go into accounts payable, you can see that the address now is here in a very strange spot, but it's in here permanently, the way I have built this and the way I designed it over here. So get out of there. Let's go back into a few options in here I want to show you. So let's say, so I'm back into the same inquiry. Let's say I don't want I don't want all my users in Sage to be able to modify my inquiries. Okay. So in the foundational class, I cover this a bit, but if I wanted to make a change to an inquiry in here, for example, and closed it, the inquiry, since I have Inquiry Designer, it's going to ask me, do I want to save changes to the inquiry I have up while I'm inside accounts payable? If I don't want my users to be able to do that, you can turn off allow modifications to for them to be able to do that. Okay. So if you have a standard inquiry that you use when you're maybe in the payroll module and you don't want someone to be able to go in and add certain information or delete columns or change them, you might want to turn that off. That would be a good example. Another thing I wanted to point out down here is, let's say you have some payroll records that are attachments you put on some payroll inquiries you use, and you don't want them to be able to see them. You can disallow attachments being able to be seen. And another thing here on conditions. So if someone adds a condition to an inquiry in accounts payable, for example, so if they add a condition here, or delete this one, for example, and save that inquiry, will you want them to be able to do that, allow changing of the conditions or not? Okay, so that's where that plays with the blue condition button there. Okay. Okay, so a couple other little things, or a couple other things. So inside some of the inquiries, see if we can find one here. There are some formulas that are being used. So for example, in this profit summary, you have a % complete column over here. So if you click on the % complete column, you can edit the column contents. You can see this is a JC formula, JC total % complete job. Okay. So in order to put this column in here, I need to come up here and make a formula first. So we're going to go to the job cost formulas, JC total should be listed in here. I just can't find it. Well, you would set up a formula to do the calculation. So for example, this one would be taking your cost at complete here, or your cost to date divided by your revised estimate. So this column here you cannot click on this and say, I want to take this column divided by this column. That's what that was doing. You have to build a formula first and then add the column from the formulas here. Okay. So you have to do 2 steps when you want to do a calculation inside of an inquiry. First, you need to build the formula, and then you need to come and add the column. Okay. Other than that, there really isn't too much more to cover in here on inquiries. I'd say the biggest thing is start with one that you like, or that's pretty close to where you want to be, and change it. I mean, you'll want to copy it first, but you want to come in here and start with something, add your columns that you like. Again, the foundational class covers how to work with views, different views on here, but you'll want to more than likely start with an inquiry, copy it, name it something, and then play with that. Okay. So starting from scratch is a little harder to do. It's once you get good at it, it's completely fine. But I usually find one and change it, copy and change it. Okay. So if there are not any questions at the moment, let me check with Kylie here. There are no questions at the moment. Then I am going to conclude. Again, reach out to help@bangerinc.com if you need help in designing an inquiry or getting started. Thanks for your time today.